Good evening, everyone. Thank God it's Friday. Time to have your weekend food for thought, brought to you by the team at HR at 8 p.m. On behalf of the team, I welcome you all to the 14th episode of ABCDE, Academia, Business, Consulting, Development and Entrepreneurship. The topic for today is talent transformation at the bottom of the pyramid. The expert speaker for the day is Kalyan Chakravarthy, Executive Director and Founder Sevak of PARFI, Pan IIT Alumni Reach for India. Incidentally, everyone in PARFI has a Sevak attached to his or her designation to keep the Seva Bhav intact at all times. Kalyan will be shortly introduced by our moderator, Sunita Deevela. Sunita is a business leader with over 17 years of work experience in preschool and K-12 education. Her core responsibilities include managing customer service, customer loyalty and engagement programs, business development, operations and HR. Before I turn over the floor to Sunita, I would like to inform you that this session is being recorded. In order to keep the background noise to a minimum, the mics have been put on mute and the moderator will take up questions on your behalf. Please keep writing in the chat box. In case you want to ask the question yourself, please raise your hand and your mic will be unmuted. I'll be summing up towards the end after the Q&A round is over. Over to you, Sunita, to conduct the session.
Good evening, everyone. It's great pleasure to introduce Mr. Kalyan to all of you. Mr. Kalyan is founding Sevak and Executive Director of Pan IIT Alumni Reach for India Foundation. Pan IIT Alumni Reach for India Foundation is a nation-building initiative from IIT alumni with a mission to enhance incomes of the underprivileged by bringing IITian spirit to the vocational and livelihoods education through non-profit joint ventures with state governments. He is engineering graduate from IIT Madras. He is a postgraduate from Indian School of Business Management, featuring in the Dean's Merit List. He has completed an executive education program from Harvard Business School on strategic non-profit management. He started his career with FMCG, marketing, strategy consulting in India and abroad before returning to India to work with social enterprising sector. The interesting part, here it comes. He is a strong believer in applying market-based solutions for the social problems and development interventions. He is a member of CIE, National Skills Committee, and active participant in policy making. Let's hear it from the expert on the challenges, hurdles, success stories of his journey. On behalf of the team at HR at 8 p.m., here is a small short video intro of Mr. Kalyan.
For this kind introduction. Honestly, it's really unnecessary. I don't think there's so much work to be done. I don't think much has happened really. We should do much more. I just want to make a point that this is not something which any one individual can do, and honestly, it's the team that really does all of this, and all of us, in fact, Mohammed Ilyas Saab is also here. So all of us are actually extremely capable of contributing. So I don't want this to be a pravachan. I want this to be more like leading to some action at the end of this. All of you, whoever wants to get introduced and interested and kind of get involved, and especially the reason why I really wanted to kind of do this was HR is a community that's close to our heart. We actually work with a lot of them. We are rooted in Jharkhand, where XLRI, the fountainhead of HR professionals, is located, not far from Jamshedpur. So there's so much of synergy and possibilities that can come. And obviously, we require everybody's wisdom and guidance to go forward. Thank you to Atul for this wonderful opportunity. I really appreciate that. So actually, since I've seen the mails on ABC and ABC and DE, so I just thought, okay, let me also kind of make it like ABC Insights about talent transformation at the bottom of the pyramid. While we are using the Pan IIT Alumni Foundation that you described as a backdrop, honestly, this is not a conversation on what the foundation does. It is a conversation of what are the possibilities, and it's a very interesting and rather humbling experience, and on how some of these can actually translate on the ground. So let me not waste much time and jump into what I believe is one of the possibilities of talent transformation at the bottom of the pyramid. All of you are HR managers, so at the heart of what you really do is human capital. And if you look at what we mean by pyramid, right? And the bottom of the pyramid is a very famous concept that Sri C.K. Prahalad had popularized. And so the idea of that was that, there is a market, and the market is actually not a very fair distributor of goods and services. So some of the privileges we have, not everybody has. And obviously, people who are in that privileged class might not really understand the lack of or the privilege per se, because they really don't know what it means not to have it. A simple example in the current scenario would be lockdown, stay at home, right? So while many of us can work from home, honestly, somebody in a construction worker or somebody with, airport assistant, of course, once the air travel resumes, all of these are physical operations. And there is a requirement and livelihood compulsion that some of these people who might not have enough savings have to really, not have the luxury of working from home, though they would obviously, like us, want to work from home and be safe, right? So I think the point of the entire pyramid approach that Professor Prahalad mentions, is the late Professor Prahalad. So I think the point is that he says there is obviously some kind of layering that's out there. And there are, in our opinion, three segments which are very distinct. The first one is, of course, the entire capital markets funded structure, which means that that's what you and I are really experiencing. We are we are at the apex of the pyramid, and we really are here because of our education more than anything. We've had a good childhood, lucky that we were born where we were born. Honestly, it's an accident of birth that we are where we are, and I could be Narayan and Narayan could be here, right? The point Sunita ji was making. So, so the idea is that, we have a section of the apex of the pyramid, which is really having all the services and products and the whole world catering to them. The middle category, which is what is called, if I may put it in a very simple, income language, the green would represent upper middle class, and upper class in terms of economic prosperity. The yellow would be the so-called lower middle class. Of course, there are theories that in India this might be a diamond, etc. But the fact is, it's relative. And these are people where they might not have fundamentally inherent capacity, but they make do. These are people in the security guard, somebody who's a security guard, and there they have slum schools, and there are education mohalla clinics, and so there are set of service providers who kind of work with that, and that's called impact investing in the social enterprise world. So since this is a webinar on knowledge sharing, I just wanted to put in some very technically appropriate, so that all of you can kind of Google later, etc. So impact investing funded segment, that's what is 70 to 40% of income segment, and the bottom really is comes in some sense excluded. These are really people in hinterlands and folks who are really out there, and very, very difficult circumstances that they work in. So that's the segment, and they live far off. Honestly, in India, this would be about 40% of the population. I mean, despite the best of the efforts of the government. And that's not small number. I mean, we are on a base of 120, 125 crore people. 40% is substantial. It's about 50, 60 crore people. So therefore, that's the space which today only governments cater. These are people who would only have access to government schools, government hospitals, daily wage workers. So that's the bottom of the pyramid. And today's conversation is absolutely only catering to this red box, the box where this is the bottom of the pyramid, where we are saying that, how do we kind of do talent transformation at the bottom of the pyramid. And I really mean the word talent and transformation, both of those words, because we honestly believe that these are people who are really talented. They are as hardworking or more than you and I are. They have actually learned to live with frugality. So we need to have respect when we actually think about it and not just look at it from a very charity kind of a perspective, saying, oh, poor people. And yes, they are poor, but it's not out of their choice that they are. And it's probably a lot of economic and environmental factors that have driven them there. And that we need to be very cognizant of. So that's the point, and this is where Pan-IIT Alumni Foundation has a very interesting case study on how we have worked with governments and how we have actually achieved very, very comparable results. And it kind of proves the point that given an opportunity, especially in vocational education or education, which is, like I said, the basis why in today's world people are in any of these three strata, they can actually be in any of these. They can also be in the green, they can be in the yellow. It is just, like I said, an accident of birth that they have not been able to get that opportunity or access. And what we have done in the past, 4-5 years in Jharkhand and before that in general, is really effort focused on how do we focus on talent transformation at the bottom of pyramid. So I hope this gives a context of what we really want to kind of explore today. I really don't believe that, I think a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. I'm a very firm believer that actions do speak louder than words. So instead of just giving a conceptual framework, I really wanted to have a case study with real data, real people, real numbers, real statistics and some photographs and everything else, so that all of you get a feel of how this can be done. And if this can be done in one instance, like I said, honestly, Pan-IIT is an honest attempt, which all of you, if you really wanted to start up, could really do the same thing. I mean, the Neil could do that in wherever he is. Sunita ji, you can do it. So all the audience here are very capable of doing this transformative thing because you have the domain, you have the gift of the education that has really kind of made us where we are. It's obviously a question of preference and choice and other constraints that come with it. But fact is, it's a possibility that is out there. And today's conversation for the next 15-20 minutes is really about how that can be done, one way of it being done. And if this can be done at this, by us, we believe there can be, may there be thousands of lotuses that do. Yeah. So that's and I'm not referring to any political party. So yeah, so let's jump into this entire conversation after setting this context. So the way Pan-IIT Alumni Foundation thinks about vocational education is that it's an initiative of the IIT alumni. As you all know, IIT stands for Indian Institute of Technology. And we've had one gift, and it'll be surprising, it's a public system, right? It's a government-owned institution, which is, again, some of the best in the world. And we've actually had some of, engineering education globally. But when it comes to ITIs and sub-ITIs, we are nowhere in the global map. So we felt that was a gap that was not acceptable to us. The benefit we have got in engineering education, we really wanted to give it down to the vocational education space. That's why the entire initiative of the foundation is about getting that IIT spirit in the vocational education exclusively for the underprivileged. And we do this with the joint venture with the state. So that's the ABC framework or insights I'm going to speak about. But a quick introduction, what do we define IIT spirit as? That's, I think, in some sense showcased in this lab. It has 5-6 levers. First and foremost is that it has to be a public institution. It is not something which is private in nature. It is not something which you may pay money to get into. Access is not a function of your income level, right? So that's something which we were very, very cognizant when we kind of thought about this. Second, as you know, IITs are now literally IITs and IIMs and AIMS and XLRS also to some extent, and BITS. All of these good institutions and NITs are really more or less dotting entire landscape of India, right from Jammu. There's an IIT Jammu, for example. There is a IIM in Shillong, down to Tamil Nadu. So idea is that it's really geographically spread, and that's an important thing because India is a huge country. So we believe one of the things about IIT and Spirit is that it should have geographic access, it should have economic access, and of course it should also have very strong outcomes. People really throng all these institutions because they know they get a job. It's not just education, it's fun experience. And so there are a whole lot of factors that go into what that is. And it's really a best-in-class experience. It's there, I don't know if you've heard of some of these songs. It's basically Summer of '69 for them. It's really a very nice time in their life that they remember. So therefore, that's important. We need to give, no matter which part of the pyramid people are, their aspirations are very, very similar. So the idea was, how do we kind of bring that entire IIT-ness, if I may use the word, into vocational education. So we have two interventions, what is called Gurukul and Kaushal College. Gurukul is a 2 to 3 month employment program, really connecting people to a job. And then there's a 1 to 2 year Kaushal College program, which is an employability program. That's a 1 to 2 year, so that's a 1 to 2 year kind of a program, which is more like an ITI, a trade license kind of a course. We do nursing, we do culinary, manufacturing, whole lot of other stuff. Yeah. So that's the entire landscape from where you need to understand talent transformation. The reason why I've given this case study, like I said, is not to really make a pitch about what we do. That's okay. That's incidental. It's really a framework that kind of, shows us the story. And so Atul and Sunita, I need some background here. Has everyone seen the National Geographic thing, or we need to play it for the benefit of the audience? Because actually the first A of the ABC is access, and it is told in the lens of the story of Narayan.
Pan IIT Alumni Reach for India Foundation is a not-for-profit social enterprise led by the alumni of Indian Institutes of Technology, IIT, committed to creating self-sustainable business models that enhance incomes of the underprivileged. The foundation runs a demand-led training program that is a joint venture with the government of Jharkhand for skill development in the state, ensuring a sure placement for students nationally and internationally, and a trained skill base for the industry hiring them. Spread over 10 states, the Gurukuls are set up like work sites, giving the trainees a hands-on experience of the jobs they are training for.
What we do really is not just skill building, but it is about transforming their life. In IITs, apart from what we learned in classrooms, we learned from each other in the hostels because it was fully residential program. So training is one part of it, but what happens beyond training is equally as important. So what we are trying to do here is something similar.
Candidates also receive a 100% skill loan through NABARD to support their training. The loan is only payable after the student has completed the course and has been placed in a job. This helps students from less privileged backgrounds to take advantage of the skilling programs.
Narayan is a very interesting case study where he went through the Gurukul system. He took a loan because obviously could not afford the education which he got for 2 to 3 months in 3 months in plumbing, which he learned. And once he got placed in Dubai as part of the campus selection model, he repaid in the first salary all the EMI there is, and therefore The point about training is it has to be experiential.
Narayan is visiting home from Dubai, where he works at a construction company who employed him after he completed his training with Pan IIT. India has a potential to have a surplus of 245 million skilled workers like Narayan by 2030. At the same time, countries across the world are projected to have a shortage of over 85 million, making India a possible hub for sourcing skilled labor for around the globe.
जैसे हम लोग गुरुकुल से निकले, हम लोग को सीधा दुबई के लिए रवाना होना पड़ा। शुरू जब इधर से गए तो वहाँ का माहौल अजीब सा लग रहा था। अजीब सा दुनिया, कैसे लोग हैं, क्या लोग हैं, पूरा बड़े-बड़े इमारत हैं, बड़े-बड़े टावर हैं। वहाँ पर जैसे हम लोग का यहाँ छोटा-मोटा गली है और वहाँ आपको ना गली मिलेगा ना, पूरा चारों तरफ हाईवे है।
Unemployment rates in Jharkhand are higher than the national average, and a large part of the rural population is below the poverty line. Skills development and training allow people like Narayan to break the circle of poverty and reimagine their lives and the lives of the community.
Jharkhand was selected because it was one of the highest repayment states. Of course, in addition to the poverty indicators, we found the tribal youth and all of these youngsters. They had that personal will and initiative, but did not have access to opportunity.
मैं अपना जो स्टडी शुरू किया वो घर के नज़दीक में स्कूल थे। मास्टर मतलब कभी कभार जाते थे। मार्केट नहीं है, एक्चुअली रोड का सुविधा नहीं है, बिजली का सुविधा नहीं है, इसीलिए मास्टर एक सप्ताह में एक बार 2 बार आते थे। उसके बाद मेरा अंदर कुछ जुनून था कि मैं आगे चलूं और पढ़ाई करके आगे बढ़ूं। मम्मी पढ़ी लिखी नहीं है, लेकिन मम्मी का एक शौक था कि मैं कुछ करूं ना करूं, लेकिन लड़का लोग को जरूर पढ़ाऊं। मेरा घर आने का एक मकसद ये रहा कि अभी जो मेरे घर हैं वो भी मेरे पापा बनाए हुए हैं, मेरे पापा और मम्मी, क्योंकि सारा पैसा तो मतलब मुझे पढ़ाने लिखाने और 2 भाई हैं उन दोनों को पढ़ाने लिखाने में चला गया। सबसे पहले मैं कुआं बनाऊंगा, क्योंकि पानी पीने के लिए बिल्कुल नहीं है यहाँ। कुआं से जब पानी का सुविधा हो जाएगा उसके बाद मैं घर बनाऊंगा।
So as you all have seen the real stories about how access is important, and we need to give access exclusively for the poor. We need to prioritize them in our scheme of things, and it also has to have some outcome. It cannot be just activity where we are not giving any kind of placement or some kind of, just like we expect a placement when we go to a college, be it XLRI or IIT or any of this. Folks at the bottom of the pyramid have very similar mindset. So when we do talent transformation, it has to be in the context of a end use. It's not just a theoretical capacity building conversation. And that's very evident as you've seen the transformation that has happened from story to Narayan. So what we've done is really in Jharkhand, we've set up a network of a whole lot of institutions, like I mentioned, about 10,000 people per annum capacity. And all of them have the same principles, that it is 100% placement model. All the institutions give the same thing. They have a skill loan model, which I'll come to in a short while. And then, eventually the model, and then best in class infrastructure. So the same principles that I mentioned about the IIT spirit, we have captured them in different shape and form despite the geographic and physical limitations of the centers. The kind of DNA is very similar. These are the snapshots of the centers. As you can see, all these blue and green flags are everywhere. And those are the kind of things which we have, right? So the A of ABC Insights is about really access. And that's really important. And so therefore, we need to keep that in mind. And so is there anybody wanting to hazard a guess what this is? So this is a test we have for something called our Kaushal colleges. And that's the 1 to 2 year program. They had 17,000 kids who wanted to write exam for a 720-seater. And it's an interesting model where we actually, there's a merit cutoff. That's what this test is about. But once that cutoff is there, we really want to give admission based on poverty, ideally exclusively to the poor. And over time, we really want the list to be not a merit list, but a poverty list after a merit cutoff. And they are two different things. So that's very important. And this just goes to show there is a lot of hunger for upgradation, self-upgradation at the bottom of the pyramid. So it is just sheer lack of opportunity and care and access systems that we are just not building for them. Like there are so many IITs, but ITS, for example, are not in the same shape and size. So this is the kind of stepmotherly treatment that is coming for the bottom. That's the reason why it's where it is. It is not because of their fault per se. Yeah. So these are stories of the nursing college, for example, and the girl, who actually kind of stood as a state topper came from this house. It's a very modest house. The family income is only 30,000 rupees per annum. And this is what is called as the multidimensional poverty index of the UNDP under the United Nations Development Program. It's really a scientific approach to measuring poverty. As you can see, they really are very, very underprivileged. And this girl has managed to get 755 out of 800 in 1.5 years of, putting her through our kind of system. So it's possible. And now she's got a job with Apollo, which is about 17,000 in hand and 21,000 CTC. So it's quite neat. So the point is they're really capable of upgrading if we give them the platform. So we should not really for a minute think that whatever applies to us does not apply to the bottom. And therefore the A of access in this ABC Insights is very, very important. Similarly, the story of Priyanka Kumari, again, very modest household, and she stood as state second. This is of Devanti Kumari. Her brothers could not come. I mean, they were migrant laborers. They had passed away and their dead bodies could not even be taken back by their parents. And this is the house from where they live. She's also managed to get a job in some of the best hospitals. So the point is that these are girls who are really capable and we need to give them that access. And we need to design, therefore, and that brings me to the second point about the learning for today, which is the business model. The problem is we try to have a reservation approach, if I may use the word, for educational systems or training systems that have been built for people of a different background. So we think, okay, just let's open 20%. But let's remember that for 15 years of their schooling, they've not had great schooling. So we need to factor all of that in. We need to bring in technology-enabled quality education. There has to be skill loan financing. And at the heart of it, we need to design a system that is centered around them. So for example, all our centers are 100% residential because we know for them to everyday shuttle, it costs money. There is a lot of difficulty for them to come all the way. And more importantly, some of them might not have enough food, etc. For them, if the school takes care of all of that in the skill loan that is given, they're more than happy that at least one shoulder, one mouth is less to feed. So we need to keep all of this in mind. And this is the example I had just given about the nursing transformation. We are incidentally India's largest A&M, which stands for Auxiliary Nursing and Midwifery Public Vocational Education System. This is the kind of classrooms that there are. The Narayan story talked about their background, but they very slightly has covered what we do in the school. But this is actually some of the snapshots of how high quality, very IB class, best in class infrastructure. So we should not think that there is it's not about bringing down the quality. It is actually doing more than what is required because they have a background which has to be made up for an academic insufficiency because of the schooling that they've received. The quality of schooling or state schooling has not been up to the mark. So we need to reimagine our systems, put in the best tech out there, best infrastructure, I urge all of you to come down. This is our catering college, very and fairly state of the art. As you can see, the training kitchens is very similar to a master chef kind of a kitchen. So we urge all of you to come down and see a very IIT-like, when we said ITIs, this is what we mean. So all of this is there, and therefore if we really put a very solid business model, when I say business, do not think of it as a commercial profit maximizing enterprise. What we are saying is what is called a social business. It actually stands for fundamentally a business or a market-based approach, which is a non-profit, non-loss making approach. So it does not mean that people are being fleeced out here. It's very reasonable. We charge 6,000 rupees, all expenses paid, for a 1 month per month program, which includes their stay, that includes their food, tuition, their clothes, everything is on us. So they're just on the house after that. So that's the point. We need to reimagine how we design business models, or if you don't want to use the word business models, how to use delivery models which are around that. So that's the B of the ABC Insights. That's very important to keep in mind. This is the skill loan piece I was talking about. It's very similar to any other engineering college or management college, but one of the better ones. So if you don't have money to study IIM, you go to a bank which is on the campus, you get a 100% loan that goes to pay the tuition fee, then you repay because there's an assured job. We have very similar model, but at a very vocational education level, like I said, at 75,000 rupees per annum, or a 10,000 rupee for a Gurukul model kind of a thing. And it's the same model that comes, very assured job, inclusion of finance and getting a skill loan for it. So that's why when I said business model, it covers all these aspects. We need to keep in mind that they do not have cash down ability. They don't have ability to, even for you might say, oh, what is 10,000 rupees? No, 10,000 rupees is a lot of money. Because if you look at India's MPCE, which is the per capita, expenditure, rural per capita expenditure, it's only about 1,200 per candidate per person in India per month. So 12,000 is an annual kind of a monthly per capita expenditure, a yearly per capita expenditure that is made out. So we need to be cognizant of some of these realities, right? So that's what it is. Like I said, the girl came as the topper. The third C of the Insights is about collaboration. Honestly, we cannot deliver something at scale at the bottom of the pyramid without having the biggest developmental partner, which is the government. As you all know, Atul, for example, worked for one such institution, which is the National Skill Development Corporation. So idea is that government is looking for help. Of course, we can always take the moral high stand and say, hey, it's their job. I mean, they should know better. All that is good, but honestly, it's an extremely mammoth job that they are. Imagine that you are a collector of a district. In India, a district is as big as a country in Europe, right? So, and then it has probably, I don't even know the ratios, maybe one lakh, or 1 millionth of the resources that a country in EU has. And they want, if you want outcomes, you need to empathize with the government system, right? Instead of course, standing from the outside and kind of taking a very, what should I say, a very anti kind of a role. We can actually be a proactive role, be constructive rather than critical, right? So we've done this through a joint venture. This is, like I said, only one of the missions. So there's a Section 8 company where we hold a majority. The government agencies have actually got a minority share. And therefore, the CEO of collaboration is very interesting. It's the story of Praja, which is the Pan-Ital Reach for Jharkhand Foundation, which has actually enabled all of this real estate, this investment, all of this. And the government is really out there, shoulder to shoulder, really helping you deliver some of this. And we cannot do it without them at all. And the important thing, which I didn't put it out there in the C, also we need to remember, is that maybe the credit part of it, we should let them take the limelight, because eventually it is they have political mandate. They need to be seen to be doing good work. If the CM inaugurates and kind of tweets about it, talks about it, it's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it at all. So we are happy to be in the background. We should let them do the credit part of it. But as far as the collaboration, the work is on the ground, we should be the ones doing it. A not-for-profit has a very similar mindset as a government in terms of development mandate. So that's how it kind of comes together. And so these are some of the centers and some of the other initiatives called the Kaushal Vidya Academy. I'm seeing time, it's 8:45, so that's all the time I have. but we are bringing 11th and 12th integrated ITI, so to an IB school on an ITI with 11th and 12th, which is very much aligned to the national education policy, very greenfield campuses, some of the COVID work we had done. So that's what it is. And of course, the idea is it can be replicated in other models. All of you can take charge and really, come up with your own versions of these. But I think I just want to, this is it. I don't want to take further time. So thank you for the opportunity. I think the bottom line is that talent transformation, I will go back to the first slide, which I think is important. We need to keep this at the heart of our design. And we need to really come up with, systems and market-based mechanisms that deliver services to the poor, not like a charity and, okay, I've done some good work for the day, 100 rupee de diya hai, but actually use our might, like you're not doing in your companies and respective employers. You're obviously not just, you're building a sustainable system. So we need to have a systemic mindset when we really target the bottom of the pyramid. And honestly, like I said, transformation is possible. We have really proved it. You have state rankers coming from that kind of houses. You can imagine it's possible. So I think that's the potential there is in a country like India. And I urge all of you to kind of, figure out your talent transformation strategies, maybe a couple of years in your life at any point in time, whenever it suits you. So I hope that was useful and interesting. And that's all from my side. Let's make it interactive. Thank you.
Yeah. Floor is open for questions. If anything you would like to know a little more about it. Maybe while I receive the questions, Mr. Kalyan, what was the biggest challenge you have faced during your journey? Because we understand this is not easy, as you rightly mentioned. It is a team and lot of collaboration with governments, and I'm sure of course, we have good participants against seats, but I'm sure there must be some challenges also you would have faced. While we receive the questions, can we hear it something on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the challenges would be, I think, we need to, I think I can name maybe one or two challenges. The first one is, of course, getting good quality people. Like everything else, building a good team is even more difficult here, right? So I think the point is, we should not believe, that's what I said, this is not substandard work. We need to understand that. Just because it's actually more difficult than really, training something. It's easier to be in NIIT than Pan IIT, I keep saying, which is basically the honestly, because you need to understand, we're trying to build a system where there is nothing. It's like trying to carve a path, right? So it's obviously more challenging work. So we need more, competency than less. So getting good bunch of people, and we are grateful that we have a fantastic bunch. That's important. So team definitely is number one challenge, I would say, because honestly, there are also constraints on how much we can pay. We are not going to compete with the biggies of the world, and all you HR professionals understand compensation benefits like back of your hand. So we are not even getting all of that. So that's important. And the second challenge I would say is, I think, we need to have a little longer term horizon, because this work takes time. It's not something, you can do it in 3 months. Okay. So normally the general attitude is, corporate se aaya 6 mahine mein. Nahi hota, because like I said, a whole lot of environmental factors have to be, auspicious, if I may use the word. So we took time, it takes time, but once you do it, the scale and the satisfaction and the transformation that's possible is very, very real. So that will all pay back. It's just that you should think of this as a little longer gestation, endeavor rather than so it's not a 2020, since it's the season of IPL, it's a test match or at least a one-dayer. So keep that in mind. So as long as these two principles are clear, that you have persistence and passion, and, we are open to kind of working with it, whatever it takes. And the first one being good team, should be fine.
Correct. We also at small level teams in organization in general, when you handle teams also, you get the same challenge. You'll be blessed to associate with passionate people to some extent, even if it is that thing. But how it becomes tough to maintain that momentum, sustain that momentum for a long term, especially in these kind of scenarios. It's a long term goal which we are working with. So can you share some insights on that? I have 4 more questions. I'll just take
Okay. So Sunita ji, I think, see, we need to understand that this is not very different from what we do in our HR, world on a day-to-day basis. We hire people, we train people. It's just that there are different cadre of people. Of course, those in the manufacturing sector, construction sector, they can really relate to this anyway. But those in the white collar kind of knowledge economy sector might find it a little challenging. It's the difference between HR and IR. So the point is, this is really IR. What else is this? But the difference here is that IR comes from a perspective of saying, because you're an employer, you actually make a choice to take somebody or not to take somebody. Here, we don't have that choice. We try to enable everybody to get there. So a lot of our domain and expertise is required, and we work with corporates. Honestly, one of the things I did not spend much time about is the way Gurukuls work. Right? It is not because we are doing it. The coursework, the pedagogy, the curriculum, the trainers, everything is co-curated with the employers. So the employers and the HR community is absolutely integrated to the entire model. That's the reason why it's actually employer driven rather than pan-IIT driven, right? So that's the real reason why it works. The market is absolutely important. It's exactly how, in some sense, it's like an in-house training center. So it's very similar to the skill sets you have. So I don't see that you will be lost for a lot of time. Yes, there will be some income opportunity loss, but that's a personal choice. Barring that, it's very similar, what should I say, texture of work that goes into a typical IR kind of a setup. But we need to apply with patience and persistence, like I mentioned, and transformation will happen.
Great. Thank you. We have a question from Mr. Sukhanand Joshi. Do you take sponsored candidates from industry? How's fulfilling your criteria?
We do, like I said, we work with employers. There's one important difference. We believe that at the heart of this, there has to be productivity and competency, right? So when a candidate is sponsored, while you can sponsor the cost, the ability of the candidate is independent of the action of sponsorship, right? So if you are sponsoring somebody, that's fine, that's like great, but eventually the person should be eligible to get a job, because employers are not doing this out of charity. They're doing it out of their business requirements. So that part of it, as long as it's taken care, then it works. So the CSR and industry houses are very, very welcome, and then a lot of them do. We have a whole lot of donors. Like I said, this was not a pitch on pan-IIT. That's why I didn't really bring our elements of, we have donors like HDFC, Credit Suisse, people from abroad. So a whole lot of other actors who really sponsor us, JP Morgan. So there's a whole lot of people who really kind of enable this to make it happen. So that's absolutely valuable. But like I said, that's on the sponsorship side. As far as the CSR angle is concerned, from an HR perspective, it's a pure productivity, competency, proper recruitment, framework. Because you won't want a nurse who is just there because she is a sponsored candidate. You want her to be competent when she's giving you the injection.
I know. I think that answered Ms. Avani's question. This is great work being done at the bottom of the pyramid. How do you think this can be replicated in other parts of the country? Any corporate types can help. This is to some extent.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I think, like I said, this is actually a market-led model. We are very happy. Like I said, we are very actively looking to expand in fact, there's a question on, so let me jump back to the presentation. I actually kind of quickly glozed over it, but we are very keen to expand. We are very actively looking out to all the, I don't know if you're aware, in the development parlance, there is something called the BMARU states in India. BMARU ka matlab hai Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh. So they are basically states which are not well. In the modern language, they are called aspirational states. So we are aspirational districts where there are states. So we are actually very focused on the Hindi heartland, because as you know, India-wise, North and East are the poorer counterparts of Indian population. State GDPs are lesser. So Uttar Pradesh, Assam, Northeast, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Odisha. We're happy to kind of look at all of those regions and really kind of pick up work, because there's a whole lot of requirement. Jammu Kashmir, So we need to go to any other low HDI states, and you're all HR professionals. So the Human Development Index, wherever it is low, we're absolutely happy to replicate and kind of get there.
Nice. Good. So that Avni, I think we got the answer. There is BMARO. BMARO is the word where they have these expansion plans or the tie-up. What opportunity? The next question. Acha, this is from Indranil sir. It's himself. What opportunities HR professional expect to have in social sector?
Oh, see, like I said, this is actually social sector is HR sector, if you ask me, because it's about people. It's about people with challenging, conditions. So honestly, if somebody is closest in a formal learning perspective, it is HR professional. So to just give you my background, I didn't say it so much, but honestly, my first job in ITC was as a HR manager in a manufacturing plant, as an IR manager to be precise. So I used to handle shifts with workmen. So I get that. So I'm just saying it's right in the alley. All of us can really contribute in the social sector. So I think there's a whole lot of potential. This is a very exciting sector. Very different, but definitely exciting. And it's similar skill sets that if HR professionals are interested, that's why we have a whole lot of army men in our system. Our centers are headed by colonels from army. Of course, like a nursing college will have a doctor colonel because it has to be relevant. Similarly, our gurukuls are headed by either people from CRPF, ITA background, or people from army, JCOs, junior commissioned officers. So we absolutely, this is people management 101. I mean, there is no getting away. In fact, like I said, it's more difficult. So absolutely welcome to have a whole lot of HR professionals. It's the switch and call that, like I said, at point in time, whenever you want to take that corporate sannyas, if I may use the word, you should feel free. And this is worth trying out. I mean, it's exciting. Like
actually, quite a new young professionals are just questioning ever since we started the series, how they can give some kind of commitment to this sector, maybe on voluntary basis. Immediately on basis, maybe professionally it may be a little challenge, but they are interested to give some time, some commitment, some effort to this kind of initiatives. So there has to be some kind of integrations so that you can accommodate these talents for the purpose of your journey. So if something is there, maybe now or in future, you can kindly share it, that perspective.
In the real job, so there's a whole lot of, there's something called Karma Yoga, there is a website called I Volunteer. So there are entire shadi.coms to match volunteers to, causes and actual work they can do virtually, virtual volunteering. So there's a whole lot of possibilities which are there. People are interested in this in a very serious fashion. We don't do it, but there are a whole lot of organizations who are really, just doing this. So absolutely welcome. We should definitely connect them. I honestly believe charity does begin at home, and I mean charity. Money is easy to give. Giving time is the real, real worth and value that we should worry about. Somebody asked about sales, representatives. We unfortunately don't. We work with blue collar segment, like I was saying, the IR side of things, construction, nursing, anything which has, technical skills, not so much on the verbal kind of skills, because that requires little more maturity, little more educational levels. We don't do at that level. We work on the blue collar, plumbers, drivers, ITI folks, manufacturer, sewing machine operators and stuff.
Good. Yeah. Thank you. And there was one more question which is already addressed. Mr. Ashok Kamal, is this being done only in Jharkhand or in Pan India doing it elsewhere in India? So I'm sure that Ashok, you agree with me that is being answered during the other question. And is there any database of such students available for employing them? This is from Ms. Renu Bora.
Sure. So ask her to just send a mail. We have an entire alumni database, and so there's a whole lot of this thing, and we're happy to kind of get back and do that.
Yeah, Renu ma'am, that is for you. Maybe we can connect with him one-on-one and partner with him for that opportunity. And again from Mr. Sukhan Joshi, this would be a last question I would be taking up. Then I'll hand over to Atulji. wrap up the session. What opportunities exist for association corporate synthesis post retires in manufacturing background cost basis? If yes, how do one get associated with it?
No, no, absolutely. So I think that's a proper recruitment channel process. Somebody sends a resume and I think gives an interest because these are senior people. They have a kind of mindset saying, I want to contribute in these kind of jobs. I want to work on this kind of sector. So absolutely possible, not just us, the whole lot of training providers. There's a whole lot of non-profit good players who are actually happy to absorb. I think if the expectations are okay and this is genuinely some version of honorarium rather than a salary kind of a model, it works. I mean, it's possible, and one can always figure out synergies, etc.
Okay. Over to Atulji for the learning summary.
Thanks, Sunita. Thanks for moderating the panel, and thanks, Kalyan. A wonderful presentation. And even I learned my talent also got transformed. I started with A for Apple, B for Bat, and C for Cat, to Academia, Business and Consulting, and today to A for Access, B for Business Model, and C for Collaboration. So yes, I also underwent some talent transformation today. Thank you very much for that. So it was very pictorial, your presentation, to the pyramid, how you explained with the capital market funded being the top 30%, and the impact investing to be the next 30%, and at the bottom of the pyramid was 40%, which is typically government funded. And there are 50 to 60 crore people. That's amazing, and that is really the, let's say, the outcome we would like to achieve, how to reach out to these 50 to 60 crore people, which includes the daily workers. They are the ones who are facing the brunt of this COVID, the challenge of COVID. I mean, we can work from home. As rightly said, a person from the construction industry cannot work from home. He or she will have to look for a job or some kind of wage to be able to sustain himself and his family. Then the Pan IIT case study and the government case study in terms of having a collaboration. And as rightly said, the journey of 1,000 steps has to begin with the first step. So I think it has already started with the Jharkhand government, and it will reach out to the Bimaru states. That's, let's say, our objective is. That's where we are focusing as Parfi. And the Gurukuls and the Kaushal colleges. So the difference between Gurukuls and Kaushal colleges, as I get it, the Gurukuls are for 2-3 months, kind of short-term training, vocational, leading to a job. And Kaushal colleges are 1 to 2 years. Of course, they are funded also separately. The Gurukuls will have, let's say, a loan component of 10,000 rupees for the trainee, whereas for the Kaushal colleges, it will be 75,000 rupees per annum kind of a thing. But then just translates to some 6,000 rupees a month of residential stay and getting into one of the best kind of places to train yourself. And that takes me back to my IIT days itself. It was a privilege being in IIT because we had so many facilities and we hardly paid much for it. But then now it's the time to do payback. So it's the right model to really go ahead and let these people have a loan so that their stake in the matter increases, and then they repay back. And there are a number of stories like that. You talked about Geeta Kumari. I mean, that was one impressive story there. The whole 30,000 rupees per annum versus 17,000 rupees per month kind of a job. That's like increasing the household income nearly 8 times. That's a commendable effort, and that's the kind of metric we would like to reach for every single trainee that we get into a Kaushal college. Then the multi-dimensional poverty index by UNDP, it's important to follow that. That's a very objective way of measuring impact. A lot of work is happening in India, but then the measurement of impact is very dubious, or it is debatable. But here is a very clear-cut case of how this particular impact is being measured at an international standard. And somewhere it also leads to the country's sustainable development goals being reached. So it gives country an image abroad too. And I think that's very important. We should have a bigger, let's say it's not only following the bottom of the pyramid at home, but creating that image abroad, because once the image of India is already getting better, and it's something that if we can achieve this kind of transformation at the bottom of the pyramid, then that will lead to a lot of investment from abroad itself, rather than just FDI. Because of the share market, it's going to be FDI coming in to promote social development projects in India. And I think Parfi can do a great job in this particular aspect. And there were questions asked, okay, how corporate sannyasis can find better ways. Then Parfi is one of them. And you mentioned a few other sites like I Volunteer. That is where we can make.
It's also one example.
Pardon?
Atul is also an example of corporate sannyasi.
Yeah, I'm also a corporate sannyasi. I landed up in National Skill Development Corporation. That's when I first got to know about Parfi, and that bonhomie of being. I mean, one of the basic principles that Parfi follows is actually we all got influenced by late Abdul Kalam ji, who said IITians should not be job seekers; they should be job creators. I think that's one of the basic principles of Parfi, and that has influenced a lot of people. I mean, that's where people have given up their jobs to do something different, and that something different is one of such example is Parfi. And there's no, what is the Praja model? The Praja model is Pan IIT Reach for Jharkhand. It's a very successful model. It fulfills the political mandate of the government there, and the CM got every right to tweet about the success, and we actually should welcome, and we should actually applaud the Jharkhand government that they have done a great job, and that is the kind of, let's say, success we would like to transfer to the other Bimaru states, to the UPs, to Madhya Pradesh, to Odisha and Bihar. If those governments could, let's say, want to adapt it, and then they've got a Jharkhand model to follow up with. And we'd be happy to work as Parfi, as a team, we'd be happy to extend that support to the other states. And whether it starts off small or it starts off the entire state, that's immaterial. But the government giving out land and building and support in terms of recruiting people, and for us makes the Parfi system better equipped to take that thing forward. And of course, the corporates, we should not forget the corporates. After all, they are the employers. And if we can get more and more employers taking the blue-collared workforce, and there's a big HR community watching this, and there are more HR community people who will watch this. This is one place where you don't have to go to Naukri.com or LinkedIn profiles, etc. Here is where your blue-collared mandate can be fulfilled. And not only for once, for continuity. I mean, there are places where you would like to have a steady stream of people coming in, and Parfi can actually fulfill that. And not only for ones and twos, they can fulfill it for a full team. And the advantage that we have seen is that when the whole team works with the organization, they tend to stick together. There's teamwork already started there. I mean, for the HR people, there's nothing better, better music than to hear that there's a team which is showing teamwork right at the start itself. They don't have to be put into training programs to build teams. They are right from day one, they work together. And they are from Jharkhand, very hard-working people. And I think we need to just replicate that and take it forward. So with that, I mean, I would like to kind of now end this session.
Yeah, it's a very wonderful session, and you really touched the hearts. We could learn a lot with the passion that which you are serving the society. And I think we're all working at college level or at postgraduate students level. But these same models should be incorporated in the higher education also, so that we can scale up these models to the next level, especially the GIL at which you are working, Kalyan, and the SunMoksha, the supporters, and the Parfi. It's a really collaborative model. Thanks, Indrail, for giving me this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation from the bottom of my heart. Really, the last 1 hour, I could enjoy a lot and I learned a lot. And you are the real role models for the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, team at HR at 8 p.m. Thanks, Parfi team, and have a good weekend.